Greetings, Exile. Do you want to watch the world burn? Yes, that's exactly what I thought. This build is what my league starter and heist evolved into. Some of my decisions in the passive tree result from converting my Avatar of Fire Divine Ire Trickster to the current build. Before we get started with the guides, I want to mention the fact that most of my viewers have not yet subscribed to my channel. If you like my content, please consider to like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me out a lot. And let's not forget the usual version disclaimer. The guide is based on patch 3.12 Heist League. Please be sure to check the written guide, pinned comments or description for any updates of this build. Some mechanics, skills or items can change with ongoing patches, making the build differ from this video. If the patch number does not match the current patch, the build has not been updated, so check the patch notes for any changes by yourself. That being said, the build is based on the Replica Emberwake as a core item. I'm not sure if the replicas are available in future patches. This build is based on the Replica Emberwake, which lets your ignites burn a lot faster. Why do we use it, you might ask? Let's quickly go to the mechanics of Ignite. Fire damage and some other extra mechanics have a chance to ignite the target for 50% of the base damage per second. Critical hits have a 100% chance to ignite by default, while non-critical hits have a chance that can raised by passive point support gems and many other ways. Only the highest ignite deals damage to the target, with a few exceptions which are irrelevant for this build. Ignite damage can be scaled up with a lot of different modifiers, which are in no particular order: damage, damage over time, elemental damage, fire damage, burning damage, ignite damage, damage over time multiplier and fire damage over time multiplier. Armageddon brand has a high modifier to ignite damage, but usually attacks too fast to properly benefit from it. Therefore, we stack ignite speed and burning damage to maximize the ignites, which lasts in our final setup just a tiny bit longer than the activation speed of the brand itself. Since this is not enough on its own, we can also use a flame wall as an additional source of damage for bosses. It profits from most of the stats that we are already using. On the defensive side, we are a trickster, and that means we have Ghost Dance, which provides increased evasion and damage reduction. Escape Artist provides a kind of stun immunity at almost all times. We have a high block chance because we use a staff. We utilize Leech as a health recovery mechanism. We can opt for a Glorious Vanity to increase either our energy shields or get over Leech. And because we are damage over time and brand type builds, we have a high mobility. The Trickster is a very good base for damage over time based builds, therefore we pick him. The stun immunity and other good defensive options are just a nice bonus on the already excellent package that he provides. Since we shouldn't have any problem staying alive in the early part of the game, we can pick the damage points first. Patient Reaper provides a massive boost to our damage over time and also a nice regeneration during mapping. Prolonged Pain is a pure damage boost to damage over time effects and a little defense against those effects on us. Ghost Dance provides a small boost to our defense as well as movement speed as long as we have energy shields. If you prefer it, you can also pick this as a second Ascendancy. Escape Artist provides a stun immunity as well as some extra energy shield, evasion and spell dodge. You can find the passive tree in the description down below. The main focus is increasing the fire damage over time and the survival. In the beginning, you take the shortest path towards elemental overload for big ignites. Because I hate cluster jewels and the idea that a portion of the tree is locked behind NG, I only use the absolute necessary ones. In this case, get a medium fire damage over time jewel with extra ignite speed. The rest of the points went into staff block nodes, which are extremely strong as defensive option. While I do not recommend it, you also have the option to go for glancing blows if you like. After reaching level 90 plus, you can include more jewel sockets and also include the Glorious Vanity in the position below Mind over Matter. Until you get Escape Artist, you want to stick to the Soul of the Brine King as a defense against stuns. After that, Soul of Lunaris seems to be the best solid defense choice. For the minor Pantheon, I stayed most of the time with Soul of Reslater because I want to have the emergency life flask at all times ready during bossing. Another good option is Soul of Aberrath against Burning Grounds. And let's not forget the Bandits. You kill them all, we need the passive points. Our first 6-link setup is the Armageddon brand setup, which uses Armageddon brands, Ignite Proliferation, Combustion, Deadly Ailments, Swift Affliction, and Burning damage. As you see, the support gems aim to increase the Ignite damage of the spell, and for that you can opt for the alternate quality of the Armageddon brand, which has a chance to deal double damage for even bigger ignites. The second 6-link setup is the Flame Wall, which includes burning damage, efficiency, elemental focus, as the spell can anyways not ignite, concentrated effect, and controlled destruction. As a supportive 4-link setup, we use Wave of Conviction, Flammability with Hex Touch, and Arcane Surge. You can also opt for Awakened Hex Touch to get a second curse worked in with Elemental Weakness. Our aura and supportive setup is Enlighten, Herald of Ash, Malevolence, and the Flame Golem. We utilize a cast when damage taken setup with Steel Skin and cast when damage taken. As a movement setup, we use Second Wind with a movement skill of your choice. I prefer Flame Dash. The Searing Touch is our mandatory weapon. It harmonizes a lot with the fire damage over time nature of this build. Carcass Jack provides a nice boost to area damage and effect at the sacrifice of a bit of defense. To synergize with our Ascendancy, we want to use an energy shield base like a Hubris Circlet. The stats that you have to look out for are life, resistance, fire damage to spells, which is a hunter affix, and nearby enemies have -9 fire resistance, which is a warlord affix. Those Conqueror's affixes are optional. The must-have modifier for gloves is the Incursion affix, added fire damage against burning enemies. Fill the rest of the item up with life and resistances. While it is difficult to acquire, fire damage over time multiplier, which is a Shaper and Hunter mod, can be worth it. For boots, the most important stat is always movement speed. Fill the rest up with life and resistances. If you have a high budget, you can also include Ignite Steel damage faster, Tailwind, those are Hunter affixes, and maybe even throw it together with an Awakener Orb to get the elusive from the Redeemer. This build is based on the Replica Emberwake as a core item. It makes your ignites tick a lot faster, and therefore Armageddon brand is worthwhile. Pyre, on the other hand, is just a nice damage boost with its almost 100% increased burning damage. Do not forget to use Turbulent Catalysts for the elemental damage. The Amulet is a good defensive slot, but don't hesitate to invest maybe a little bit more in it. Fire damage leeched as life, which is an incursion mod, is an absolute must-have in my opinion. In the craft bench, you can craft damage done while leeching on it. Fill the rest up with life and resistances. Using a Conqueror's Orb can give you +1 int gems, fire damage over time multiplier, which are hunter mods, or +1 fire gems, which is a warlord mod. I prefer using Stygian Vices for the Abyss sockets. Increased damage, life and resistances are in my opinion the must-haves. What is really valuable is the fire damage against burning enemies, the same as you can get for the gloves, but in this case it is a warlord affix. Feel free to pick your personal flask choices. You have to include one anti-bleed and one anti-freeze flask. Anti-curse is optional. Pick a health flask of preference. Rumi's Concoction is a nice block flask. Usually I work in a Quicksilver flask to get faster through maps, but it is not necessary for bosses. A Silver flask for onslaughts provides even more speed during mapping. I use an Enduring Mana Flask for no Regen maps. Another option is a Quartz Flask for more defense, in this case dodge and phasing. Let's not forget the Cluster Jewels. You want to use one fire damage over time Cluster Jewel, which is a medium Cluster Jewel. And Blowback is a must-have stat in my opinion. The other useful traits that you can roll on there are Wasting Affliction, Burning Bright, Cooked Alive and Master of Fire, which either make your ignites tick faster or lower the enemy's fire resistance. The jewel sockets that you unlock later in your passive tree can be filled with Cobalt Jewels, which have life, fire damage over time multiplier, burning damage and fire damage. Transcendent Mind is another good jewel for damage over time builds. You want to place it above the witch starting points in the tree. If your budget allows it, you can also pick Watcher's Eye with faster ailments during Malevolence or damage over time multiplier during Malevolence. In the best case, you get both. As a defensive option, you can pick a Glorious Vanity. You want to place it in the passive tree below the Mind over Matter nodes, and it is your own preference if you want it in the name of Doyani, which gives you more energy shield but lets elemental damage partially penetrate your energy shield, or if you want it in the name of Ahuana, which gives you overleech but your energy shield starts at 0. And like this we have reached the end of the guide. First off, I want to say that I'm sorry for having to delay the guides by that long time. I was, due to sickness, not able to do the audio recordings, and therefore it was a bit more problematic to get the guides going. It is also the reason why I skipped the leveling section of the guides. If you enjoyed the guides, please don't forget the thumbs up. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask either here or in the forums or in my Discord. The link to join the Discord should be down below in the description. If you are interested in any more content of mine, somewhere here, I don't know where YouTube will put it in the end, will be a link to the playlist of my other guides. Yeah. In this matter, have fun, Exile, and see you next time.